Welcome. So what is it that brings people into psychotherapy, in to see a counsellor or a therapist? Generally it's a crisis of one sort or another. Something has happened, maybe a breakdown in a relationship, maybe the loss of a loved one, a death, maybe some anxiety, and whatever it is, it's some form of crisis, and people want to do something about that, and they come into therapy. And in my experience over a number of years with people coming in, that once we go underneath the initial crisis, that there's a common thread, and I think that thread is meaning. Initially it comes across as, I just want to be happy, or I want to be more happy, or I want to be happier. But it feels like that if we're just seeking to be happy, that it's kind of the wrong thing, that it's, if we seek meaning and we find meaning, that happiness automatically comes as a byproduct of that. And somehow, and I think this is like an existential meaning, like what are we doing walking the earth? And so all of us have to find, I think, our own individual answer to that. So it's not like saying in a philosophical way, what's the meaning of life? It's much more, what's the meaning of my life? Or how do I give my life meaning? And so that might be in love. So maybe I love my partner, I love my children, or my parents, or the community I live with. Or it might be in nature, or in art, or in the work I do. Doing this might give me some meaning, and it does. And so if we can focus on finding meaning, each of us, whatever it is for ourselves, that in itself will tend to bring us towards happiness. And because I think our soul is ultimately at rest if there's meaning in what we're doing. And I think at that point, I think that brings happiness. I don't think we'll find it in, getting a new car or a new jumper or something like that. I mean, it will give us a short-term happiness, but I don't think it answers any of the questions for us. And then we look at what gets in the way of that a lot of the time, or then how do we find meaning in difficulties? So, somebody has just died belonged to me, or I've seen my partner walking hand in hand with someone else. How do I find meaning in that? And I'm all upset. Or like Viktor Frankl, when he was in Auschwitz, how did he find meaning in being a prisoner in Auschwitz? But he did, and wrote a book about it. And so it's difficult at the time of crisis to say, oh yes, this is meaningful, and I'll find some meaning, and someday I'll be glad of this. But as time passes on, and as we understand what has happened, there will be growth in this. And so it's like in the Rumi poem, where he talks about welcoming in all the visitors. The poem is called The Guesthouse. And so how we should welcome all these visitors in, because at some point it might be this real difficult situation that has brought us to therapy, maybe, or whatever, or to talk to a friend, or to challenge ourselves somewhat. But ultimately, I think it will be around taking responsibility for who we are and what happens to us, looking at issues, big issues like why are we getting what we're getting, maybe considering that phrase that I get what I tolerate, maybe learning that for the first time in one of these crises. And I think just to, maybe that the poem, The Guesthouse, would capture that as good as anything else. And so I'll leave you with the poem. The Guesthouse by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honourably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.